if I do this, I could lose everything I have,
Mhm.
everything. And if I don't take this opportunity and pivot and try and make it exactly what it should be,
Mhm.
I don't know if I could live with myself like not taking that opportunity.
Right. All right. Today I'm with a salon owner who went from lash artist to seven-figure business owner, and she owns one of the top light companies in the industry, in the beauty industry. And so today I'm joined by Mary. Mary, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's so amazing to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your company.
So I'm the founder of CosmoGlo, and CosmoGlo started from an idea. I was a service provider. I did lashes. I had my own salon in Hermosa Beach, California, and I was so happy doing lashes. But I was so frustrated at the lighting, and I had multiple employees, and I feel like they would just complain about lights all the time. So we can get into the story in a minute, but that's how CosmoGlo came to be, and what led us to be the industry leader in salon room or treatment room lighting.
Yeah, and so like I've always heard of CosmoGlo and I knew great things about it, but then I was like I met you at a networking event
Mhm.
recently. I'm like, yeah, I gotta have her on my podcast because we got to talking and you had so many great business tips to share. And so I'd love to, teach the audience some stuff. A lot of my audience is beauty professionals, and so I know that you were a lash artist, you sold your salon. When was
Mhm.
that?
I sold my salon in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then so CosmoGlo, when did you start that?
2020. CosmoGlow was a COVID baby because I had a salon in Los Angeles during COVID. And so when they called us to say, you will no longer be able to do services because you're filed as or you're registered as a personal care service, that was what I took a pivot to and started CosmoGlow. But yeah, I had a salon there for several years, 5 or 6 years, and loved it. Had a full staff, a very loyal clientele. And so I feel like the journey from individual solo artist to salon ownership, and if you have employees, I don't think you quite know what you're getting yourself into at every step of the way. But to walk away from it and having sold it and it still lives on, the owner has it now, is there, and I still visit them every time I land home. But it's so great. And feel like there's so much I can share with your audience.
Awesome. So I guess let's go back from the beginning. Like, how long were you a lash artist?
As a lash artist, well, okay, let's go way back. I was licensed when I was 18, decades ago, but I was licensed as a cosmetologist. So
Okay.
I started in hair. And nobody tells you that hair is like, there's a dirty side to it. You are covered in someone else's hair all day long. You're standing there with blow dryers. So if you want to go out on a Thursday night, like, oh, you can't. You have to go home and shower first. And I just remember thinking, like, there has to be a career path that allows me to go out after work because I was a young kid. And so that's when I switched into more of the aesthetic side of things, going into more skincare. I learned how to wax. I
Mhm.
did all of that. But waxing's so repetitive.
Yeah.
As a esthetician, you have to know every single ingredient, what every single ingredient does, not just professionally, but also the drugstore brands, because people bring you these bottles and say, I put this on my skin. Is it good for me? And I just thought, oh my God, this is like science class. And that's when lashes was like so new. I went to a trade show and they were doing the demonstration of lashes. When I was a little kid, I loved to make those friendship bracelets. I would sit for hours. And I remember looking at it being like, oh, this is like adult friendship bracelets.
Mhm.
And like they get to sit, it's in a spa setting, you listen to music, your client sleeps half the time. I'm like, "Oh, I want to learn how to do lashes." It was way back in the day. I don't know how long I've been doing it. I don't do it anymore. And I don't know how long it was, but right around the time, I want to say like 2017, 2018, when things were just coming out, before education was good. I had to get licensed. I got my certification. I was terrible. I went back, got certified again. I had to stick with it. It was more of like a trial and fail at this time. Now there's so much great education. You can go to a class and really learn. I feel like it's so much better than when I was there.
Right.
But the beginning of stages of lashes is when I entered that.
Okay, awesome. And so at what point did you go from, just an artist to someone who actually owned a salon?
I worked as an employee my whole life. Crazy. Like I've always had two jobs. I would always bartend on the weekends and save that money. And I would always work in a salon, whether it was doing hair or skincare or aesthetics. And I always do both. And I'd always save one as like a fun fund. And I'd always do the other one that paid all my bills. And I would take multiple years off and go travel. So I've left the country like 2.5, 3 years at a time, multiple times. I've traveled 64 countries. And every time I come back, it was starting over. And so I landed in a place where I thought, oh, do I want to go work for someone else, which is what I do every time, or do I want to work for myself because I have no clientele. I didn't know anyone in that city. And I thought before I start over, maybe I should start over working for myself and see what that journey is like. And so it happened to be 3 blocks from where I was living at the time. A salon was for sale and the owner was pregnant, and her husband got restationed to Hawaii. And she was like, I can't not go. I'm pregnant. I want to be with my husband, and I'm selling this for exactly what it is, all inventory. Sign on the dotted line. It's yours. You take over the lease. And I was like, oh, this must be perfect timing. So from the time I found that salon to it being mine was 3 weeks. And that was my first entrance into salon ownership. And that was a 2-year battle of learning what that's all about. It's not an easy road. I'm thankful I did it now, but it was a lot of ups and downs. But that's what got me into business ownership.
Wow. So it's like, this is kind of a controversial topic, but my mentor talks about genetics and how, like, you know, someone like LeBron James or someone like me, we could each have a basketball and it's going to be different outcomes. Just genetically, he's built a lot different.
Right.
I think entrepreneurship has a lot of genetic aspects as well, because when I hear your story, it's like most people wouldn't just go travel around to 60 countries and keep starting over. Like you have a higher risk tolerance, I think. Have you always had that?
I think so. I always say, one, when you rip a Band-Aid, I went to Australia by myself. When you go to a continent where you don't know a single soul and have a great experience, the Band-Aid's ripped.
Right.
So that was my first intro in. The other thing is what led to CosmoGlo is when you go and have a great experience and see how other people live in all these different crazy places and how they all make it work, it ignites something that there is always a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Business ownership and entrepreneurship, I think it was always there. That's why I was always like very driven, motivated entrepreneur within a business. You know, like I always worked for someone else, but I was always like, it didn't matter the hours. I would work 16-hour days, get 5 days of sleep and go do it again. If it meant that I could just like crush what I was doing and save up some money to afford me some travel. And so looking back, I always had it, but I never thought it was in my head. Like I never would have identified that as myself until I kind of just fell into salon ownership. And I was like, oh, here it is.
All right. So you're a salon owner for how many years?
Between 5 and 6. It's a little fuzzy at the end, but I would say between 5 and 6.
Okay. And then the pandemic hits, you get shut down. And then at that point, I feel like, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but we all had a decision. We could either get depressed and, you know, retreat, or we could pivot and adapt. And you pivoted and adapted.
Pivot and adapt. This is a great leeway into where CosmoGlo began. So I had a salon. We were great. I had a business. All my girls were awesome. We were fully booked, and they would complain about the light nonstop. And so I thought, oh my God, how is there a way that I can make everyone happy? Because I've replaced my lights 5 different times. I bought every light that's on the market, and they're still upset. If I could just like have them stop complaining, my life would be perfect. So I started prototyping my own, and that was September 2019. I was like, I know what I want. And it's actually my husband that encouraged me. He travels for work Monday through Friday. I worked in LA. It was like he would meet at LAX. We would just stop and grab a glass of wine, kind of our like ritual. And one day he was asking me like, how's your day? I'm like, oh, these damn lights. You know, I have bought every light. He just looked at me and he's like, babe, I love you, but I have heard you complain about lights for 1.5 years. If you don't choose to be the person to do something about these lights, can we just be done complaining about lights? And I thought, well, I don't make lights. I do eyelash extensions. And he said, yes, but you would have already known what you need. And I was like, oh, I have it all figured out. He said, grabbed the waitress and grabbed a cocktail napkin and said, show me what you're thinking about. And I said, oh, I got it all figured out. I want a flat base because I loathe tripods. You know, you have hand hawkers and their eyes are closed, and all of a sudden they're making these hand gestures and they hit your light and the light falls and you're trying to grab it and you have this mini heart attack and their eyes are closed and they don't even know what's going on. And I thought, I just want it to be stable. So I drew the flat base and I said, oh, like the old school tanning beds that have that shape. I want it to be that shape over a face so that you have perfect light from ear to ear. And if it could get rid of the shadows, and if it had LEDs that didn't heat up the room, because all of our rooms, it was like a Goldilocks salon. One had the air conditioner on, the client would be freezing. The other one had these lights that were making her like so sweaty, where it was just, we couldn't find a balance. And so the heating element was so important. And so from that, I drew it, and he kind of was like, okay, great. There's your prototype, go get that made. And I thought, I don't know. But then I thought about it. The beauty industry is huge. It's only getting bigger from here. more men, more women are getting more services done more often than ever before. And no one's ever made us a light. What if it was me? And like, what if I really did bring a product and it could change the whole industry? And so we did. But it started with that napkin sketch. And from that napkin sketch, I was able to get a metal prototype. We popped in some LEDs. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't safe. But when we plugged it in, everyone in the salon was like gasping, like, and when we used it, it was like, oh my God, this is the best light ever. So that's where we were. We had 3 lights. And I just kind of prototyped them. Clients would come in and be like, oh my God, that light's so cool. It's so unique. I've never seen anything like it. And I'd say, oh, well, that's because it's mine. I got it made. And they would say, well, why don't you go make that into a real company? And I said, I'm so busy. I'm good with you guys. Yeah, we'll fully booked here. I have the staff. I have the salon. I service you guys. I'm good. But I mean, maybe if I ever get the time, I'll make it a real company. But when am I ever going to get the time? Well, that is flash forward to 2020 when we got the call that in California, we are registered under personal care services, and starting tomorrow, you will no longer be able to do your services. So yes, like many of us, I went home, I had a good cry. I ate way too much chocolate. I drank way too much wine and I cried it all out and thought like, where do I go from here? Like, is our rent going to be paid? Is my business going to survive? What do I do about the girls that depend on me for their livelihood? And all of that kind of came tumbling down. And in a matter of a few days, I thought, you have a situation here. You could freak out or you could pivot. And you always said, if you ever got the time, I think I was just given the time. And if I don't take this opportunity and pivot and try and make it exactly what it should be, I don't know if I could live with myself like not taking that opportunity.
Right.
And so from there we pivoted, and from there I got it made. But yeah, COVID was a big component for me to even get started. And I don't know that I would have been where I am right now if it wasn't for COVID forcing me into a pivot.
Yeah, that's amazing, because so many times I see people that they have that opportunity, that moment. But I was actually just talking to my business partner Tony about this earlier. I was like, look, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And so when the time is right, you got to go for it.
Exactly. And I remember freaking out because I had the income of a lash artist, and obviously we always want it to be better, but I was limited. And so I thought, God, if I do this, I could lose everything I have. Everything. And am I ready to start over? And what does starting over look like for me? And I had to have a really real conversation with myself. And then I thought about it and I said, you know what? All the time. I start over all the time. I literally pick a new city and find a job and find a side job and find friends and find guys to date and like all of the things every time. So starting over to me isn't as scary. Then I thought about, okay, my age, getting older. That was things I did in my young 20s and 30s. Like now into my later 30s, do I really want to do this? And then I thought about, I know people that started over in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And some of them are the happiest now because they have exactly what they wanted now. And then I thought, I'm really going to be gutted if someone else does this and I sat back and was too scared to do it. And so at that point, it has to be me. And I'm okay with losing it all and starting over. But I also have a beautiful opportunity that could change an entire industry and could be global. And I have to try. And so I did. And that was the conversation I had with myself. And I know so many people are like scared to fail or scared to make a jump or scared to lean into something that they're unfamiliar with. But honestly, I would call it like cannonballing into the unknown. When you cannonball, like you don't know what's going to happen. Right. You hit that water, it splashes, but you're in and you're so fully submersed that you look back. Nobody's ever sad that they did a cannonball. Like that burst of excitement, that burst of fun, like all of a sudden you're like, okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And so I think for me, I was conditioned and used to starting over. But also too, once you alleviate the fear of this is the worst that could happen, are you okay with that? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Okay, well then let's go.
Yep. It's like, I love that. The cannonball is a great analogy. I've never heard that before, but along those same lines, so many beauty professionals that I talk to, they just want to dip their toe in the water. Let me try marketing a little bit. Let me try this little bit. Instead, if they would just jump and cannonball into and go full force, they would be so much more successful.
Yeah, there's a famous quote that is something to the effect, I'm probably going to butcher this, but something to the effect, if you hire the professional, it's going to be expensive. But if you hire the amateur, it's more expensive than hiring the professional because you have to do it twice.
Right.
And so when you don't want to spend the money and you're a little bit risky and you want to dip your toe, sometimes you're actually hurting yourself because you're not getting the full effect. You're not getting the full payback. You're not getting the full experience of all that it can bring. You're shorting yourself a little bit because sometimes you just got to go for it.
Yep, for sure. Love that. And the crazy thing is, me and you have never discussed things like this before, but it's like so many things you're saying is exactly the stuff that I, believe and teach.
Yeah,
So,
I'm in great minds.
for sure. So, going back to, my audience of beauty professionals, for them, what advice do you have for, growing their business?
I think always be open-minded. The landscape is always changing. If you say, I'm going to do it this one way and that's how I'm going to do it, good luck. It might work for you. Some people have made it work. But I think as the landscape changes, it's always good to constantly be learning and growing. I was always a big person that I love social media, but social media isn't everything. Make sure your Your business is up to date. Make sure you have a beautiful website. Make sure that you're encouraging your customers to talk about you. So many times I would hear clients be like, oh, I went to lunch the other day and I kept getting comments on my lashes. And I'd be like, okay, great. And how many of those did you tell them to come see me? Because they all should be coming here for lashes. And they would say, oh, I didn't even think about that actually. But then they would go to lunch again and come back and say, hey, I told all of my friends to come to you. There was one girl that sent me over 30 people. I mean, I had the whole tennis club, but you never know where that new lead is going to come from. And encouraging your customers, even though like they're not growing your business for you. You have to grow your business.
Yeah.
But enabling them and saying, hey, I would really appreciate referrals. It can go a long way. And I think social proof has so much to do with things. Like make sure that you are grabbing those reviews. Because here's the thing, we're in the beauty industry and clients come back on repeat. And we all know the first service is so they can get that result. But the reason they come back the 10th time, the 11th time, the 12th time is because they built a relationship with you. And when you ask that person, hey, thank you so much. You've been a loyal client. You've been coming to me for a year. Would you be able to write a review for me? That's going to be the most heartfelt review. They're going to list all of your great qualities. They're going to make it feel like it's from the heart. And they're really going to attract that new person who doesn't quite know you or trust the situation because they don't know you from anyone. But when they read that review of how warm you are and how inviting the place is and how easy you are to talk to, and of course they love the great results. That's why they've been coming to you for a year. That's how you get more people. And so I think just using all of those things, whether it be collecting reviews or making sure that your business is visible or enabling or encouraging, empowering your customers to be out there talking for you. You have to do it all and be a little agile. And maybe not all of them will work, but one or two will work better than the others. They all bring you more clients.
Yeah, and I love what you said about building relationships, because I think too many people look at it as a client as a transaction. Whereas if you can build that relationship, you're getting, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think repeat customers, that's the difference between a struggling business and someone who can actually build revenue.
Absolutely. I know there's reels going around in the industry where they say like, you see the nice professional girl all done up for their first client, and then the time that they're like, oh, my client that's been coming to me for a year, they're like messy bun, hair in a bun, you're in sweatpants. But there's truth to that because the client at that point has made a decision to continue to see you for who you are and for the service they're getting. And sometimes you do have to nurture those customers different. You would never show up looking like you just went to the gym to a first client. But after you get to know them so much, they see you for you and they love the service that you give. And I think that's so special. A funny story of mine. So when I first started my salon, I had no clients. I was very new to the town. I didn't know anyone in the southern half of California. My very first client was my very last client when I sold the salon.
Wow.
But like 5-6 years later, it was such a full circle moment. And we had gone through everything. We went through breakups, we went through marriages, we went through like kids moving out, we went through everything together. And it was no longer just about the service, but the service is your commodity. So you have to attract people in with the service, but you keep them with the relationship.
Right, for sure. And so speaking of keeping them in with the relationship, what is your viewpoint on like advertising, get clients? I don't want to get into like cost of acquisition and technical terms like that, but what is your like viewpoint on that?
Do it. It's just another tool in your tool belt. We had slow days at the salon. Because we had to build up. I mean, by the end, we were full every day with a waiting list, but I didn't start like that. We had to start with where we were. And so we would get creative. We would send out newsletters like, hey, we have 3 spots open this week or this day. We would put posts on social media. We would go out and talk to people and hand them our cards. Hey, I'm a lash artist in the industry. If you ever need lashes, I'm just 3 doors down. You've got to kind of try all the angles, but sometimes trying all those angles still doesn't fill your books. And you can go a little bit above that, and paid media is a great way to do it because there are people looking for your service. They may not be able to find your Instagram, but if you can say, hey, I'm in this area doing this service, and that client goes, I'm looking for someone to do this service, it's a perfect match. They come through your door, and hopefully they love your service, leave you an amazing review, or for all of their friends, and you have a client for the lifetime. But even if that isn't the case, it filled up that slot for that day to get you that much further ahead.
So a lot of times our clients ask about, like, what do we do to reduce no-shows? What was your favorite tactic for that?
Definitely use a booking platform. Everyone should have automated messages. I can't tell you how many times I'm at home working into a project going, I know I have lashes in an hour, but I'm just going to finish this thing. And then I get a message that's like, hope you're on your way. I'll see you soon. I'm like, I'm not on my way. I have to go right now. And I tell my girl, I'm so glad. I know it seems weird that you send me messages a half hour before my appointment. God, those things have saved me so many times. That sometimes we don't want to be intrusive, where it's like, I'll send them, your appointment's coming up in 48 hours. Send them, hey, your appointment's in a half hour. That's okay. More than likely, they're gonna say they love it, or just give them a way to unsubscribe. Just say stop, and then we don't have to bug them anymore. But make sure that they're getting confirmations, reminders. 2, make sure you have a conversation with them. I had chronic no-showers, and then we corrected it. And so I would tell them, hey, I know that being on time is not your strong point, and that's okay. But if you want to be a client of mine, I run a very tight schedule. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of wiggle room. And I would love to continue to service you. But if you're unable to make the appointments, I'm going to have to hand you off to one of my other employees who has a little bit more room in their schedule, because I'm not going to be able to work with your schedule. And it was almost like a nice little tap where they're like, oh, so you're serious. Because people they will take as much as you allow them to take. But I would always have a conversation and not be stern, but also, hey, I can't help you. And for us, I had a salon with multiple stylists. And so if they missed their appointment, I would make them reschedule with a stylist. And the only way that they could schedule back in with me is if they would pre-book 6 more appointments that they guaranteed they had to make them. And so it really trained the clients to not be a little flaky, which is hard when you have really open books. It's really hard to get the messaging correct and get the tone correct when you know that if you come an hour late, I can still see you. But I think just working with the customers and letting them know that it is important that they make their time and that you won't be able to service them. And 2, I mean, life happens. You gotta be a little gracious. I had clients that wouldn't miss an appointment in 2 years, and then they missed an appointment. And I see it in these forums all the time, like, well, you have to pay a deposit and pay it this. To you for 2 years. Take a coffee break and go outside and see the sunshine. You're fine. So I think sometimes it's finding a line of being stern, but not too harsh that you're going to turn away that customer. Because the flip side of that is, yeah, they missed an appointment, but you got 2 years of business. Don't ruin that relationship. Yeah, I think that works.
Awesome. And so when you were doing your salon, did you do Facebook ads, Google ads, or did you rely more on word of mouth?
I never did ads, but I wish I would have. I didn't know the world existed. Now that we have CosmoGlo, I did start running ads recently, and it's changed everything for us. It's so scalable. I never know it was scalable. And yes, there's organic things, and you can rely on organic social media, organic search, organic everything. But sometimes organic isn't enough. And I think ads connect the dots between someone looking for what you offer and you looking to find someone looking for your offer. And it's a beautiful marriage. I didn't know that existed when I had a salon. I wish I did. There was days that I would just let my girls go home early. I would post on social media, like, I have this last minute opening if you want to come in. Now I'm like, damn, I wish I knew I could have just ran ads, because it really helps you focus on what you're doing in your own business. You're there to nurture your client. You're there to do beautiful work. You're there to do all the things that your salon needs you to do. You're probably not there to run ads, but if you could have ads that are just working on giving you new clients through the door, new clients through the door, new clients through the door, There's magic to that. And like all of us, I don't do services anymore, but I think our goal was always like, I want to be as full as possible. When you're as full as possible, then you get to raise your prices.
Yep.
And when you raise your prices, you're going to lose a couple people, but that allows you to adjust into the hours you want to work. And so you're essentially making more, working less hours. Who doesn't want that?
Right.
But it's a very slow build sometimes if it's just you relying on organic and all of whatever marketing tactics you have, social media, word of mouth, and running ads shortcuts that. That's as simple as that. It just shortcuts that. And if your goal is to fill your books so that you can make more money, I think you want as many people coming through the door as humanly possible in the time you have so you can get to that next level that much faster.
Yep, for sure. So when we run a lot of ads for beauty professionals, and one thing we've noticed is like, some people say like, what camera do I use? Do I need professional photography? But what we found is even if they have an iPhone, lighting makes all the difference.
Yes.
And I figured that out myself too. That's why we got all these nice lights everywhere. So let's talk about like CosmoGlo and, what differences have you seen with people in their business when they get these lights?
Everything. Well, A, to your point, yes, lighting is everything. It makes such a big difference. A, you want your work to look good.
Yeah.
But B, the person wants to know that they can trust you in a service. If they're looking at your pictures on wherever they are, your website, your social media, your pages, wherever, and they're fuzzy or they're shadowed and they're just not well lit, to them, that's not selling them the service. They're going, I don't know. Looks like she does like lashes in the dark or skincare in the dark. I don't know if I love that. But when you have good lighting, all of a sudden, like those questions are gone. And all they focus on is, God, her skin looks beautiful. Her lashes look amazing. And for us, when we first came out, we called it line in the eye when hashtags were big, hashtag line in the eye. But you could see the difference between the ring lights or the dual arms. When you saw the line in the eye, every picture was well lit, perfectly illuminated, no shadows, and the pictures were so crisp and clear. And still to this day, I mean, I can say it till I'm blue in the face, but when I see customers comment on, since I got my CosmoGlo, I don't edit my photos hardly at all. Like it makes all the difference because that's the thing too. You don't have to edit well-lit photos.
For sure.
So it makes a huge difference. And your customers are gonna go to whoever has the best looking lit photos.
Yeah, because like me and you were at that networking event recently, and they were talking about the caveman brain and how like our brain's millions of years old. And back in the day with caveman, they looked at like a dark cave that meant like saber-toothed tiger, danger, like something's gonna kill me in there. And so to this day, if we see something that's like a darker, like even if it's a darker picture, we might subconsciously not like it.
I mean, I feel like you could relate it to like dark alleys.
Yeah, exactly.
If you see a dimly lit picture, you're probably like, I don't want to walk down a dark alley. But when you see a beautiful picture and it's all lit up and it's just so crisp, and it does make skin tones look beautiful without the editing apps, it just helps you so much and it helps you attract more customers.
For sure. And so so is it just one type of light? I know there's an XL, so at least two different types.
So with CosmoGlo, the original and the XL are extremely similar. The lighting itself is the same. The XL goes 12 inches higher. So we brought that in for tattoo artists because they typically sit in different positions. They're typically male-based and they need it a little bit higher, and they still wanted the stableness because we are a very stable light with a flat base. And so we brought out XL to go higher. But we also introduced the color change, the tones. You can switch between the tones. And that was something that I originally didn't need as a lash artist. I was like, this single crisp bright light is everything to me. And that's why we still have the options, is you can go with a single crisp bright light or you can go with a tritone. And that's totally personal preference. I feel like my original is perfect. But I also listened to the market who said we like to have warm tones, even sometimes for photographs. Like it helps with my after photos. It helps with this, that, and the other. And so the XL introduces those three tones and gives you an extra 12 inches in height.
Okay, awesome. All right, so as far as who is this for, I know you mentioned lash artists, med spas, estheticians, permanent makeup artists, tattoo artists. Am I missing anything?
So many. Okay, like I never knew I created this light for lash artists, but it's gone so much bigger than that. I've had people buy them that do the detailings, pinstripes for cars. I've had people that are jewelry watchmakers. I had a hand surgeon buy it because he hasn't found a light that perfectly illuminates a hand when he's doing surgeries. So we don't cater to all of those different industries. We're mostly lash, esthetician, tattoo. sometimes we sprinkle in some nails,
Mhm.
medical esthetician, all of the things, but it's kind of been sparked inside me of all of the industries that there are. Scalp micropigmentation is one of them, where it's such a micro industry, but it's perfect for over the head when they're doing those little tattoos. It makes it look like you have hair as a hair tattoo. Something that when I was creating CosmoGlo, I never thought, okay, I'm gonna be the light for scalp micropigmentation people, but here we are. But it also is like, oh my God, now I feel like there's so many underserved industries that I want to keep going. I want to offer more solutions.
Yeah, and it's shaped so it goes over the bed and everything like that. Right.
Yeah, and for me, I was the service provider that sat in that chair. So I feel like I know exactly the frustrations you had, the struggles you had, the issues you were dealing with, and solved them. So for mine, the fact that it's 360 and moves, it's so effortless. So you can just rotate it around. You can move it out of the way. It falls flat against the wall. So you're not dealing with lighting apparatus when you're either helping an elderly client up or changing your beds. And then when you're ready, you just pull it back in. It has a phone clip. It's there to film your content for you. You can take amazing before and after photos. One of our taglines is, it's lighting that makes sense,
Mhm.
because every part of it just makes sense. No other light exists, and no other light tackles the things that we tackle.
Yeah, and being an Air Force veteran, I appreciate that it's made in America.
Yes, it is. We started in California. I switched now to El Paso, out of El Paso, Texas, but it's 100% American made metal. We powder coat there with American made products. My employees, it makes a difference when you watch these people be able to take their kids off to go do a fun activity and know that like your support, you guys purchasing these, is making that all happen. And for me, I've taken my whole team. We've done factory walkthroughs. We have weekly syncs with the team. I'm very involved in the whole entire process from start to finish, and even weekly on what that looks like. And I feel like it's kind of a competitive advantage.
Mhm.
Going back to COVID, it happened in a time where overseas travel, we didn't know what was happening. Shipping containers were exploding, the prices of those. Travel to China was kind of all over the place. And typically manufacturing is done overseas, but I felt like it was a little safer to do it in the States. And then it became kind of our secret weapon, because instead of things sitting over in shipping containers, and your time to change is 3, 6, 9 months, we can make a change happen in 3 days. I
Mhm.
mean, I could call today, and if I say I want this done differently, sometimes it's done by the end of the day. And that, going back to keeping agile and pivoting, there's been times where we've had to make those quick changes. And I think it's our secret weapon that we're very involved in the process and very on top of everything that has to do with the whole product. It's like our secret weapon for being American made, and now it's super cool and trendy. And we've kind of built our whole brand upon it. And I think it's really cool that we are fully American made.
So I know that you manage the salon and then now you manage a team, obviously, in
Mhm.
CosmoGlo. So what leadership advice do you have for those trying to build a team?
For me, it starts at hiring. I always hire for the person, not the position.
Mhm.
A person is who they are.
Right.
Position, person in your company might have 10 different hats that they wear throughout the time that they're employed with you, but they're really going to be a different person.
Mhm.
And so for me, when we do an interview, I just ask them about life. Like, what do you like? Where did you grow up? What are the things that excite you?
Mhm.
What do you want in 5, 10 years? And it's different for everyone, but it really gives you a chance to see who they are. And I usually will do the interview. If they can pass that part, then I invite them back to meet my whole crew. Because for me, you guys are all going to work together. I have to see how the energies are going to work and make sure that everyone is flush. So we have a fun lunch, or sometimes we'll do a happy hour, but they get to meet the team. And I really rely on feedback. And there's been many times I'm between two people and I let the team pick, because that's going to be your future coworker. And I think it's so important. Even when I had the salon, we did this, because when you're in a salon environment, it's a tight working environment. You're going to see those people every day. You're going to have to pick up after each other. You're going to have clients that are switched between each other. And if you can eliminate any of that energy or trauma from day one, it makes your world a whole lot easier. And so I really believe in kind of just a group interview.
Mhm.
And then after they pass that, come on in, let's be a part of the team, and always give them a runway of, this is an introductory role. You have, whether it be 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. Because you do always want that kind of, if it's not going to work and you don't see it going long term, it's not going to work for anybody. And that's always served me really well, is be true to the person, make sure that you're hiring for the person, not the position. And then sometimes let your team be involved. They're the ones that are going to be working with them, and you really want the team to be on board.
Awesome. Love that. So I guess final thoughts, like if someone is, they're discouraged right now because maybe they went through a slow time, maybe they're struggling getting clients, what would you say to them?
Slow times happen. They will always happen. There is never a time that you won't have a time that is up and down. You could be fully booked one day and have 3 or 4 clients move away. One might pass away. Things happen. They might lose their job. They might transfer to a different city. All of a sudden, they might not have the funds to come see you. And just like that, you could have 10 less people in your book. And you could have a super freak out moment of, I don't know what I'm going to do. Or I think that's a perfect opportunity to trust in something like advertising and marketing that is a sure way of bringing people through your doors to fill your books. And also just, I don't know, I think going back to the relationship and nurturing your customers, make sure that you are creating a space and a brand that is unique to you. Okay, well, we had a bunch of little taglines like love and lashes, but we would riddle that into everything. Our social media posts would have our terminology. Our newsletters would have our terminology. The way we answered our phone had terminology, and the clients would come back and repeat it. And it was so cute to hear them buy into like, hey, this is how we talk, this is how we speak. Because if they buy into it, other people will. And I feel like that's how you create a community more than just a service, is they feel like they're coming to support you, support your business, and support all of that is happening. It's not just a transaction. There's so much more. So creating that brand is very important.
That's awesome. Well, I love the advice. If you guys enjoyed it, comment below, let us know. And then if you want to learn more about CosmoGlo, we'll actually put a description below. Who knows, maybe we'll do some kind of promo code or something for them.
I love that.
All right, just check it out in the description below. And thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much.